In a world where the more of a victim you are, the more power you have, everyone will make everything about themselves rather specifically and then even insult themselves to gain more points. Take note, Kotaku, how the NPC meme tries to dehumanize SJWs. Notice that they refer to themselves as SJWs. Well, I'm told that social justice warrior is a pejorative, though there are some people who actually embrace it because a warrior isn't necessarily a bad thing. They're using that to refer to themselves in quotes because it's meant to be dehumanizing. Now, you may be wondering, what NPC meme? Well, if you're not familiar, a while ago, people started spreading this idea. I actually made a video on it. How there might only be some people who have souls, or that's probably the easiest way to explain it. If you've ever played a video game, the easiest explanation that I give people is like, if you ever played the original Mario Brothers, you play Mario, he runs around, he jumps and does stuff. There are other characters on the screen that do things as well, but no one is playing the Goomba, no one is playing the Koopa, the little turtle guys. You are controlling Mario. The other people, there is no soul guiding them. That's a non-player character. The idea is that there are people in this world who are not conscious. They don't think. There was an article that said that only something like 20% of people have an internal voice. That's, like when you think and you talk to yourself. And apparently, I've actually talked to people, they've said like, oh yeah, I don't think in words to myself. I'm like, oh, that's weird, because I do. So then what happened was the people who do have an internal voice started to question whether or not other people are non-player characters, meaning they have no soul. The meme isn't necessarily an attempt to dehumanize SJWs, it's just a philosophical idea that's this woman, Cecilia D. Anastasio, thinks that this was grade school religious nonsense. In fact, the idea of the NPC meme is actually part of, I would say it's related to solipsism and the idea of the philosophical zombie. The idea of the philosophical zombie has existed for a very, very long time. I'm not sure how long, maybe hundreds of years. Humans thought about this concept a long time ago, long before video games existed. So, no, it's not an attempt to dehumanize SJWs, but let's read what she says. She just, whatever. She talks about this sentiment taking root in progressive parts of the internet. About a month ago, a meme along the lines took root on 4chan among anti-progressive online communities. It's called the NPC meme. And it goes like this. Out there in the world, there are literal non-player characters who have no internality whatsoever. There are some giveaways, of course. They spit out canned lines. Good weather today, huh? And flock to normie trends. Are Ugg boots still a thing? And for the most part, share the same uncritical worldview. The classic melancholy meme Wojak, a sad man crudely drawn in Microsoft Paint, has now received the NPC treatment with NPC Wojak. I don't know what that is, but you can see, like, here's the crudely drawn guy, and then here's the NPC. He's got an exclamation over his head, exclamation point, because I don't know if World of Warcraft started this, but that's really the only MMO I play. When you're getting a quest from a non-player character, the characters look just like you, but no one plays them, and it's got a little exclamation point, meaning you can get a quest from them. This is my favorite part. Part crackpot social theory and part elementary school insult, the NPC meme originated with a deeply comical medley of bogus physics and stupid religion found on the messaging board 4chan. Originally posted in 2016, it resurfaced last month. I have a theory that there are only fixed quantity of souls on planet Earth that cycle continuously through reincarnation. However, since the human growth rate is so severe, the soulless extra walking flesh piles around us are NPCs, or ultimate normal, I can't say this even though it doesn't mean anything as bad as people would assume, I'm going to skip that word, who autonomously follow groupthink and social trends in order to appear convincingly human. NPCs aren't even worth a classic wake-up sheeple, they can't. My favorite part is, maybe, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt right now and say maybe later in the article she actually talks about philosophy, and how the idea of the philosophical zombie has existed for a long time, and the idea of solipsism has existed for a long time. But she says it's part of a crackpot social theory and elementary school insult originating on 4chan, so yeah, sure. I would never say the NPC meme originated on 4chan necessarily. I would probably try to get more specific and say the latest incarnation of the concept of the philosophical zombie that's making its rounds is known as the NPC meme. And this started on 4chan. That's fair to say. But I love how she calls it crackpot social theory. It's like, this is kind of like someone on 4chan had an actually really good idea. The only thing is someone else thought of it a long time ago, and it's been much more fleshed out by scholars and philosophers and things of that nature. So, I'll give you an example of whatever this kind of behavior is. When I was in like 5th grade, my teacher we were going over the Big Bang. And I asked if, the Big Bang is possible. What if at some point everything, went back in and collapsed on itself? And she said, oh yeah, sure, whatever, and ignored me. And then we skipped it, and I was kind of upset about that. So then I started reading about, Big Crunch theory, which is kind of that idea that eventually gravity, you'll start pulling things together and then everything will collapse, but that's not true. My understanding now is that Big Crunch has been discredited. But the thing is, I was a little kid, and I thought of something, and I was like, wow, and I was dismissed for it. When in reality, the idea had already been studied and dismissed in the first place, but I was like, I have this idea, and I'm not bringing this up to be like I am very smart. No, the point I'm trying to make is that someone online went, "Whoa, I have this really good idea," and then started sharing it with their friends, not realizing the idea already existed. Right? That's the point I'm trying to make. So here's where things get interesting. Around the time a lot of us were assigned to read The Catcher in the Rye in middle school, it was normal to have edgelord thoughts about phonies or being one of the few who was capital awake. The NPC meme takes things a step further into political zone, where mass outcry against, say, serial harassers, racial injustice, or Trumpian ideas is dismissed as not just inherently uncritical, but prima facie, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that, forgive me, evidence of a lack of human consciousness. So they say, sports ball, new Adele song, OMG, just be yourself, Trump is Hitler. If you get into discussion with them, it's always the same buzzwords and hackneyed arguments. They're the kind of people who make a show of discomfort when you break the status quo, like breaking the normie barrier to invoke a real discussion. It's like in video game, when you accidentally talk to somebody twice and they give you the exact same lines word for word once more. And yet the funny thing is, about 4chan, is that what they're really describing is culture, and many people adhere to the same culture. That means these people could make the same comment about 4chan and be like, you ever notice they use the same jokes? People will use the same comments, the same replies, the same images over and over again. Man, they must be NPCs. This is what a lot of people don't seem to realize when it comes to these kinds of issues, that they are in a bubble, they are culture. They said essentially some large portion of society, normies, pop culture fanatics, and Trump haters among others who speak in cliches are in fact NPCs with no internality, agency, or capacity for critical thought. Like townies in Pokemon, idly parked outside the same house day and night, constantly ready with the same contrived one-liners, these IRL NPCs aren't thinking for themselves. They can't. And none of this can prove or disprove the idea. It is entirely possible there are, in fact, philosophical zombies. That's the better way to describe it. NPCs, I guess, is probably more colloquial, a better understood term. I guess I'll use NPC then. The 2-year-old 4chan post, despite its laughable premise, this is what really annoys me. It's not laughable. Seriously, it's a good idea. Philosophers have come up with this. You didn't even... What's really funny about this is this woman who wrote this article didn't do any research. She's just laughing about it because she thinks it's dumb, but she didn't actually do any research. And maybe this is what sets me apart from these media companies, is that, for the most part, I kind of read a lot. And when it comes to certain ideas, I try to Google search them. And I try to understand them. Like, is it so hard to Google search something? Now, admittedly, I've known about solipsism and the philosophical zombie long before the NPC meme, because I've read a bunch of different, philosophy articles in the past. So it is my advantage in that I already knew this concept existed. So here we got something great. Quote, how to tell when someone is an NPC, wrote anti-SJW alt-right journalist Ian Miles Chong. I love that Ian Miles Chong is like an Asian dude, but she's calling him a white nationalist. Or she just doesn't know what alt-right means. Update, 8:15 p.m. Chong returned a request for comment to note that he does not consider himself to be alt-right. Does not consider, well, he's not white. Logic and facts in an argument do nothing to change their mind and only cause them to just repeat themselves ad infinitum. Like a limited dialogue script that loops on itself in a video game. In the last month, Chong has referred to several people as NPCs. An individual who insisted that the OK hand symbol, which has been misconstrued as a white supremacy hand symbol, hey, there you go, misconstrued, they got that right, is racist, and using it as fireable, someone who might read bell hooks in college to impress a girl in gender studies elective class, people who misuse the word trauma to refer to any mildly uncomfortable experience, and ironically, a former New Yorker fact-checker who claimed on Twitter that the vast majority of men simply do not consider women to be full human beings. You know what's really funny about that? Look, I haven't read Ian Miles Chong's tweet, but if he did say that, I believe he's talking about Talia 11, if he did say that she was an NPC, it's literally in response to her calling men NPCs. Like, well, okay, basically, it's not the same idea. In some corners of the internet, NPC is beginning to replace the term SJW. According to ex-World of Warcraft dev Mark Kern, NPCs have the following qualities. Incapable of independent thought, wants everything done for them, quests. They're referring, oh my god, constantly needing coddling, escort quests. He published his checklist after another developer accused him of being a right-wing hack. The tweet evidently was meant to compare so-called SJWs to NPCs. And this woman rightly uses this image from XKCD. I think XKCD is pretty okay, but he's got that one free speech comic that really pisses me off. But in this comic, you got a bunch of people sitting around in a subway, all thinking the same thing. Look at these people. Glassy-eyed automatons, going about their daily lives never stopping to look around and think. I'm the only conscious human in a world of sheep. What makes this marginal, stale meme built on edgelord logic worth half a thought is what the idea of an NPC speaks to. NPCs have no agency. They don't think for themselves. They don't perceive, process, or understand. They arrive at the same worldview not because it's authentic to their experience, but automatically. As a descriptor, it suggests that those to whom it applies aren't even human, but rather functionally robots, or clusters of computer code. That this has resonated even as widely as it has is funny, but also a little scary. Can I say for the 5th time, for the love of God, you need to read philosophy? But I can't blame her. Most people don't. I am not a scholar of philosophy either. I've just read a few articles about it, so my understanding is probably limited too. But at least I pride myself in knowing that this is not a crazy or scary idea. It is actually a well-known scholarly concept. It's one thing, well, except for like insulting, like it's tribal. The way they're using it is tribal and a bit absurd. I think XKCD did a better job with it. What I try to explain to people is that when you call someone else an NPC, they can look to you and say the exact same things. And I don't understand why people don't get this, you know? When people are like, oh, you're racist for this reason, and I'm like, they literally said the same thing about you, right? So another thing that I feel like sets me apart from a lot of this stuff is that if someone on the left says, hey, the conservatives do X, Y, and Z, and I walk over to the conservatives, they go, hey, the liberals do A, B, and C, and I'm like, how interesting. Whereas most people just don't even interact with each other, right? So I kind of see some of the parallels between the tribes. They say, who among us can say they've never mashed A as a some expository NPC rambled on, wishing all the while they had the option to silence them or worse? Well, then I recommend playing Skyrim, Fallout, etc. Bethesda makes great games where you can pretty much hurt anybody, even if, I think Oblivion is the game where, maybe not, I know in Skyrim you can't kill NPCs that are required for the storyline. And the same is true for Fallout 4, but and Fallout 3 I think too, but I'm pretty sure Oblivion, if you kill someone necessary for the game, it says like you forever destroy the timeline or something, you know, like reload. Maybe it's before, maybe it's Morrowind, or maybe not Morrowind, I don't know. I'm not a big, huge fan of those games necessarily. In terms of like playing everything in the past, I do love the current games, I've like Skyrim and Fallout, but anyway, I digress. The point is, this is basically someone online redeveloped, or started conceptualizing an idea that already existed, and then started using it to target their tribal opponents, the SJWs, and then one of the SJWs called them stupid and said it was crackpot social theory, and all the while I'm just sitting here like, listen, have either of you done any, like, asked a philosopher about this concept? Like an actual, like, professor or someone who's actually studied in these areas? Or, like, heck, maybe even like a religious person, you know, like a priest or a monk. I wonder what a Buddhist would have to say about something like this. It feels like when you're coming to, this is becoming a bit religious, right? It falls into the area of symbolism. In which case, I'd recommend doing research before just wiggling your arms in the air and accusing people of things. Anyway, stick around. I got some more videos coming up in just a few minutes.